to part 3 of the making of this just slightly bigger than miniature hit and miss engine that I'm doing. I've done a lot of head scratching between yesterday and today, and each time I've come up with an idea, I've found a flaw in that idea and why it wouldn't work. It's basically, you'd make your own crankshaft, and because you'd make your own crankshaft, you'd have any length you wanted to get in all the things you need to get in. As you know, I'm using a chainsaw crankshaft, and albeit it's fantastic, it's super crankshaft, another idea is just shot into my head. Oh God, ideas. I was thinking that this wasn't long enough, this crankshaft, the long piece, the long side, the short side and the long side. The long side's going to have possibly a governor on it, a timing gear on it, and obviously a flywheel, and it's really limiting it to whether it'll fit. I just thought then I could actually make a sleeve that went over that and bolt it on. No, forget that. Sorry, I might edit that bit out because I'm crackers. So welcome to part 3. There's going to be no machining in part 3. Basically, I'm showing you my ideas, and I have started doing bigger than fag packet drawings on some paper I had on the back of an old calendar, and I've got 2 sheets I did the other night, and then today, this afternoon, absolutely racked my brains, and I drew this lightly in pencil, and I rubbed it out, and I drew bits more and rubbed it out, and eventually came up with what I think is going to work. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you. It's not a massively long video, but I know you like to see machining and stuff, most of you, and there's lots to do, tons of machining still on the lathe and milling machine, but just for this I need to explain what I'm doing, because if you don't know what I'm doing and I just say, oh look, I made that part and I've made this and I've made that, and you're like, well, how did you make it? And I'd show bits of it, but if you might be able to understand it more if you see what my thoughts are, and I've put my thoughts on paper and I'll show you. Okay, without further ado, I hope you like this little shorty, but as I say, there's no machining, it's all talking. So if you're not into talking, switch off. Sorry guys. Thank you. Hi guys, I just thought I'd show you what I've been up to today. I've spent all afternoon drawing, redrawing. I did this the other day, this one. Sort of how the crank lays out with the timing gear on and where everything's going to fit, and the piston. So my piston's going to be 1 inch diameter, 25.4 millimeter. It's going to be, I think it was, is it 30, where are we? Piston 35 millimeter long, made of aluminium. It's going to have 2 cast iron piston rings, and you've got a cast iron liner. It's going to have a larger bore right at the end, which you've seen already in that. You can get a better picture now as well of that gallery. I didn't realise till I went to edit this video that I'd got a torch behind it and it blinded you. But that's it, the little channel and gully. So I've done this drawing today, showing the cylinder. So this is an upright looking from the side projection, and that's the block as it is. This is the back where the brass conrod will go in and out once made, and we have the crankshaft, which will go there, and it's not going to have brass bushes. It's going to be on those roller bearings, which were good quality German ones that I got out of this chainsaw. So that's what I'm going to use. I know it's a bit unconventional, but you know, this build is actually. So that's your throw on the crank as it's going to go around. And the line, I've marked up centre line here. I hope this all comes out clear. So the centre line's through here. So I've drawn up this framework, and I've altered it and altered it and altered it so many times today, but I think I've got where I'm going to go with it. There was an issue, and that is this crankshaft. the width of it is 27.5 millimeters to the outside, to those bearer faces there. Now you've obviously got to leave clearance, because you can't trap that needle roller between the two crank webs, otherwise it won't work. That's got to be free to rotate. So I've allowed a millimetre both sides, that's 29.5, and we've come up with this part of the drawing. Zoom into it. Just hope it doesn't go out of focus. So that's this is looking from underneath. So the block underneath, I've marked it up. So that's the rear. That's the front. So that's like that. And we've got a gap, and I'll explain why. 7 millimeters in from there, the plate starts, a 10 millimeter aluminium plate. So we've got this plate there, and it finishes there. Then again at the other side we've got the same thing, and this gap in between should be 29.5, which will give me my distance to get me cranking up to the two bearings, or up to the aluminium plate. I've got some plate and I had to buy it, so that's added to the expenditure. So I did say we're going to be straight about all this, and so far, I mean, I keep saying, oh, that I've got everything I need now, but I haven't. I need a spark plug, one of those miniature ones, and they're the ones that replace the glow plug in like aeroplane engines and stuff, where there've been glow plug engines and you want to convert them to a petrol engine, you have to buy a spark plug, and it's right narrow little thread on them. I don't know what thread is. It's something like 6 millimeter. It's very small, but very expensive. You know, £2.50, £3 buy you a good spark plug for a car. A fiver and buy you a super duper one. And these are asking like £14-15 for them. So at the moment I haven't got one, but I'm going to have to buy that. And I've spent, I'll tell you now, about £100. What have I bought? I've cheated. You don't play hell with me, but I've cheated. I didn't fancy cutting gears. Now the reason being, and I don't want to delay this and go and get my cupboard box out and showing you all my gear cutters. I've got quite a lot of gear cutters, but I've got nothing like this, nothing so fine. I would have had to have bought a gear cutter, and to be honest with you, these gears was that cheap. Let's have a look. I've got it, Samsung Notes. So this is so far what I've spent. See that alloy flat bar for the side cheeks. It's a big piece of plate. There's going to be loads over. £32.75. The gears for the camshaft for both gears were £22.12. I bought a little miniature needle roller bearing, but now it's come, I realise it's too small for little end. That's only got a 4mm hole in the middle, and I don't want to break a 4mm pin or shear it in the piston, so I'm going to go for a quarter. This is a piece of quarter silver steel, and I'm going to use that for the gudgeon pin and make the piston to take that. Now maybe I'm being a bit stupid, because I've got these needle rollers, quite a few of them, but they're all too big. That's the big end, as I've just shown you, but I have got some smaller ones like that one, but again, for a 1-inch piston, they're too big. So bearing in mind I'm making the conrod out of brass, do I need a little end? As long as I machine and ream that properly, I don't think I need it. I don't think I need it. So that was £3.41, that needle roller. That's going to be no good. Cast iron for the cylinder and rings. Now that's that big chunk I bought. £19.75. I don't suppose that were bad really. This piece of brass for the conrod, that was £12.50. And I've got to order some silver solder. I've tons of solder. I've got Timmins solder, and I've got resin cord solder. I've tons of soldering irons, blow lamps, flux, you name it. But I ain't got any silver solder, and I've never done silver soldering. So I've ordered some silver solder and flux. Comes in a little kit, some little bits, just for doing the valves, the inlet and exhaust valve. I'm going to need them for that. I'm going to need some piano wire. I need to buy some of that. And much more really. I've got most of my Allen screws for fixing the bed and everything. So that were it, about £100 plus. The camshaft, I was going to machine these have got bosses on them, and I thought, well, that one's going to be with a pin through it, and it's going to rotate on it, so you don't need to clamp that. I thought, I wonder if I could machine that and make that into the cam. But then looking at the size of what it wants to be, maybe not. Maybe I might be better off machining that off completely and making a cam out of steel, and it can go on with that. And then once we've found out where the timing wants to be, it can be glued on and then maybe drilled and pinned. But all that can be done afterwards. So where are we? Let's get this zoom back out. So that's the bottom of the block. And it'll be drilled probably here and here with and I'm going to fit through these M6 bolts. Now they're going through, and I'll explain in a second. I'm stood behind camera here, so I'm looking through the camera to get myself right. Okay, so this here is the base plate, which is, it's just over there. I don't want to move camera. It's a piece of 15mm aluminium plate that I got years ago for a job. It was something to do with the X-axis drive on the milling machine. So I'm going to use that as a bed plate. I'm not saying I ain't going to have a wooden base underneath it or a box with batteries in. I haven't got a clue about all that yet. But that's going to be the basis of the main base. And then I've got here, this is going to be one piece of aluminium. There'll be two to make, obviously, for both sides. And this here is going to carry the crankshaft. So it's going to have the main bearings. It's going to have the primary timing gear there. It's going to have a pin through it there, and that will be to accept. Now I wanted them to be like that, and they are on all the little model ones you see, but I can't be making it bigger and higher and all the rest of it. That's not going to happen. So that's going to have to be like that, which means if I'm going to have a governor that's going to work on here, it's going to have a set in it, because the governor needs to pivot on there so it can push the finger down to lock the valve and stop it from closing. so that'd have to be shaped and made, but it's all got to be made, so that's, you know, going to be a custom bit that I'm going to have to make. And as I say, I'm still not sure about the governor being on here and coming through the flywheel. I really don't know. But to give you some context of where we are, hang on a second. This is a video in itself, isn't it? So to give you a context of where we're going, you're going to end up with the flywheel there. Now the flywheel won't hit this bed plate because why won't it hit it? It could hit it. I don't think it will. I'm sure the measurements I did it won't, but I did think that if it did, what I would have done was I'd have milled a relief under here. I'll tell you why. Because everybody I've seen start these up, get hold of them and spin them. And unless I put a little winding handle in or a drill fixture to start it, if it'll ever go, that is, and I spun it with my fingers, what would be the worst thing? Get your fingers trapped under there, take your nail clean off, wouldn't it, or chop half your finger off. So if there's any distance problem with that, it isn't an issue because I'll mill it away, and I'll make sure I mill enough clearance so that it doesn't do that. But I don't think it will. Don't think it will. So that's where we are. A piece of plate needs making like that shape. As I said, there's no clamps on here because I'm using roller bearings, ball bearing races. I don't need them for oiling the bushes. I might put a little oiler in top just for show that doesn't do anything. There's going to be an oiler onto the main body here. I've got one somewhere, but I don't know if it's going to be any good. This is a wick oiler with a little wick in it, and my idea was for it to go in there like that. Don't know, not sure at all. So that's my drawing done, because I was getting nowhere fast. I was racking my brains and then forgetting, and then racking my brains and forgetting, and I do it this way, do it that way. This shape I've drawn that many times, and I've come up with that, and it's a simple style. I mean, I was doing radiuses here and radiuses at the back here and under here, and I thought, no, I'm getting too complicated with it. It doesn't need to be. It needs to be simple, and it will be. So basically, this plate, from the bottom plate, there'll be long bolts go up there. They'll be counterbored, and they'll go into the main block. I'm not saying that's where, but along there somewhere. So there'll be 4 bolts holding the main cylinder block right through to bed plate, trapping this in between it. And then they're M6s. Then I've got some of these M5s, and they're going to go like that. And I'll probably put 6, maybe 1, 2, 3, and 3 other side. Probably 6 of them counterbored into there, threaded into that aluminium 10mm plate. That's 10mm plate. This is 15mm. So it's a flat plate that might need shaving down yet. I might need to put some detail on it. Also, because these cheeks are narrower, and they've got to be, simply because of the width of the crankshaft and what I've got left on the end. The big side of it, which is that, and then there's the short side. So the short side's going to just have the plain flywheel on it, which will be on the right hand side if you look from the rear, and that's going to be on the left hand side, which has got to carry, and it's got to be bored out yet, that timing gear, possibly on its own without that, or whether I use it with pinch bolts, I don't know yet. And then on top of that, some sort of governor, if that's how I'm going to do it. And then on top of that, the flywheel, and then get a nut on the end or something to grip it with, and it doesn't leave a lot of room, so I've had to narrow things up. It suffice for it to be like this. So that's what we're going with. I've definitely made my mind up, and every time I thought of something, I thought, no, that won't work because that won't work because. So what I'm going to do with this bottom is, because the plate, let's get a piece of plate. Because the plate, that's the size it'll be, is going to be there like that. From underneath, you're going to see it sort of like that. But there'll be that step there, look. So I'm going to radius that. I think that it's 7mm. So I'm going to have to try and get a 7mm nice radius on there all the way along. And the same on that side. And I thought that might make it look better rather than be a sharp edge. So there'll be a radius, and then the cheeks will start. See, in a lot of cases this is just bolted straight down onto a plate and that's the way you go. But because these flywheels are so big, and the fact I wanted to lift the crank up and everything up here so you can see it all, there's going to be this gap underneath, but it doesn't matter. Whether it'll make it tip over easier or not, I don't know. So that's where we are, guys. We've done a drawing, and in fact it's 18.5 minutes. I'll probably introduce part 3, and then I'll stick this on just to show you where we're going, because as I say, I'm not working to drawings, I'm working to my drawings, what I'm doing. And you know, the first one I did were that, to try and work out the width of everything, just as rough idea. And then, as I say, one night I sat for about an hour and a half, 2 hours, drawing all this up and then making my mind up what size line I wants to be. And today I've racked my brains this morning as to whether to make this now, which I think may be a mistake, or whether to make the conrod and the piston next. I'm going to go up to bearing place we've got in local village here, and I'm going to see if he's got a smaller needle roller but bigger than that little one I bought, and if he hasn't, it doesn't matter, and I'll use the brass in the conrod as the main bush, which would be fine. For the amount this thing's going to run, I don't think it'll matter. Okay, so yeah, so there'll be a piston to make, a pair of rings to make, counterbore it all out to get it right, a gudgeon pinhole to put in, probably a hole in top at pistons somewhere up here so that it'll catch the oil feed, not catch it, but it'll probably scavenge and scrape some of the oil, which should drip down and lubricate that little end. That's my theory, because I mean, in main engines they splash them, don't they? We can't do that. We don't want oil flying everywhere, so that's to do. And conrod, to try and make a right nice looking conrod, is me next aim. So I've got the brass, just don't want to wreck it in one go, so I'm going to work out its mean width, maybe machine it to that width before I start. Yeah, right, we won't even talk about that because I don't know how I'm going to do it, and I'll just suck it and see as I go along, but I'm sure we'll get there. I would like to put the relief in the centre of it, you know, like a rail conrod. Look quite nice, don't they? I mean, that's got a bit of a relief in it, but not a lot, but you know, that idea. But we'll see. We'll see. Okay guys, thanks for watching. I'm going to do an intro now, and then I'll probably post this tonight. Thanks for watching so far. Just keep an eye out, because there's going to be lots more. This thing's probably going to blow up on bench when I've finished it. So sorry guys.